Hi, it's me. It's the 13th of October 2020 and this is the latest Built From Scratch episode. I've been awake since 4 o'clock this morning because my eldest child woke up in the middle of the night very upset. I don't know why, but he would not go back to sleep. So we ended up going downstairs for a bit of milk and a play. And so, by the time I got to work at 10 o'clock this morning, I'd already been at it for 6 hours. I feel fine at the moment, but I'm guessing energy levels may reduce later in the day. So I'll get on with this now whilst I'm still kind of mostly awake. I have just been for a Starbucks, which has perhaps perked me up a little bit for this first hour or so. And I couldn't help but notice that the guy who served me first named me 4 times in the time it took to take an order and payment for one coffee. I think that's excessive. I mean, you know, when you take someone's name and you use it for the first time, maybe that shows a bit of attentiveness and can be slightly charming. The second time, I feel like, okay, that's still kind of nice, but you may be straying into the territory of making it look like a bit of a social tactic that you're actually consciously using to ingratiate yourself. But certainly the 3rd and 4th time you first name someone in the space of 2 minutes, unacceptable. Anyway, back to work. Yesterday ended up being a little bit disappointing, to be honest. I honestly thought it was going to be the day where I wrapped up all technical remnants and moved on to producing some content. It didn't work out that way. My head was a little bit fuzzy yesterday. We'd had a fairly bad night's sleep on the Sunday night too. I don't know if that played into it. I think also sometimes on a Monday, I can sometimes get a little bit sort of overwhelmed by all the stuff that there is to do, and it can send my head in a few different directions, and maybe I don't focus too well and really drive through tasks. Yeah, so that's how it was yesterday. Still, it wasn't actually a bad day. I got some bits done, and I am confident as ever, or optimistic I should say, perhaps, not confident, that today is going to be the day that I actually move on to content. Speaking of which, I have thought of an outline for an article I want to write this morning, which I think might be really good and very shareable. I'm a little bit conflicted about it in the sense that it's not actually to do with either. It's certainly nothing to do with Wavetether and audio-visual stuff, and it's not even to do with Built From Scratch. It's going to be kind of almost like a comedy article to do with content marketing. I think it's a really good idea in a sense, but the fact that it's going to not really tie in with the website isn't great. And also, I feel like the first content I should produce should be quite a number of fairly basic articles to do with the types of products I'm going to be talking about on the site. Anyway, maybe I'll leave that there for now, and once I've given it a bit more consideration and potentially written it, I'll let you know a bit more about that. Anyway, so what did I actually do yesterday? I processed the 3 videos that were outstanding yesterday, in the sense that I'd made them but hadn't processed them. That was for a couple of reasons. Bearing in mind, Monday is not the day that I'm, in theory, meant to be doing stuff like that. But it was because of the mass bulk processing that I'm hoping to start doing from now on. And the reason that was relevant is first because I had these 3 outstanding ones. Okay, I was just going to say that I wanted to get out of the way before I start building up the bunch of videos that I will build up to do the first set of mass processing, but that makes no sense because those 3 could have just been added to it. So actually the reason was simply that alongside this mass processing thing that I'm going to be doing, there are going to be other changes to the process, partly to do with the upscaling of the processing, but also because I've just realised there are a couple of things I can tweak to make things better. So I wanted to, this is why I did it. I've just remembered exactly what it was all about. Because there are a few things that were changing, I wanted to have a go at doing them now, rather than wait until the bulk processing was ready to go, because that might be some distance in the future, at which point I might have forgotten some of the stuff that I was thinking about. So I just wanted to trial it now, get it in my head a bit, and also get it partially documented whilst it was all fresh in my head. So that's why I did that. Some of the things that are changing, I'm not sure if this is an exhaustive list, but it includes the thing that I've already mentioned about recording audio straight to my phone for the purposes of transcription, including the thing about pausing for new paragraphs, and then briefly editing the clips together, whereas before I was trying to do everything in one take. So there's a couple of pros and cons there, but I wanted to give that a go. Also the thing about scheduling podcast releases. I wanted to look into that, which I have now done, and it turns out you definitely can schedule releases using Libsyn, and it looks quite straightforward, so I'll give that a go next time. And also the guide that I've written myself to how to process these videos, I started the process of rewriting the relevant parts of that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that at the moment, as long as I've written just enough that I know what I'm going on about when it comes to actually doing the bulk processing. That will be enough. So that was the majority of the work that I did yesterday. The other thing that I did was to check Twitter after I'd released those videos and podcasts, to see if the Twitter card markup was doing its thing correctly, and it is. So images are now showing my Twitter feed for built from scratch episodes. The cards have a different layout to the ones that were there when it worked initially. They've got a larger picture now. The 2 types that I've seen are the ones that I was producing originally, where there's a small picture and then next to it horizontally is a excerpt description, and the new one is one that I think I see more often in Twitter, where there's a larger picture and then I think there's a description just below it. I think this new form is actually more eye-catching because the picture is larger, although it kind of somehow looks a little less classy, so I don't love that. But another slight issue I have with it is that the pictures that I'm using as featured images, to get them to the right size for where I'm using them as featured images on my website's blog post page, I have to make them really quite small. I think they're 270 by 152 pixels, which means that in these larger Twitter cards they're actually having to get blown up to fit properly, and therefore they look a little bit low quality, so that's not amazing. However, the quality is acceptable, so I'm not going to do anything about it at the moment. That definitely falls below my threshold for what is worth dealing with at the moment. That's the kind of thing where I think I'll quite happily leave it as it is for a long time, and perhaps the only time I really see myself changing that is if I get to a point where I've got the money to employ a freelancer or somebody who knows what they're doing with WordPress image sizes and Twitter cards and all that kind of stuff to just make it look better. So that was it for work. The only other thing to mention is I had to nip home during the afternoon, well, what is currently home, to my mum's house, because she had a phone call from a doctor scheduled, essentially, and it was one where it kind of made sense for me to be around to help out with it, and in the end I did help out with it. I ended up speaking to the guy, and it was useful, so I'm glad I was there. And I just mentioned that because it's really a theme of this project so far, is the number of interruptions to it. It's crazy how frequently in life things will crop up that can take away oh, my glasses have gone wrong. Never mind, whatever. That can take away from your ability to do work. And what's really noticeable is how when you have paid employment and there's a place for you to go and work and there's someone who expects you to be there, you basically go and do that. And because the people around you know that there is an expectation that you will turn up for work, they don't tend to ask you to do anything other than that. But that is not the case when you're self-employed and when the people around you know that you're self-employed. And it really is a tricky thing to manage. It's nice in a way, because obviously quite a few of the things that you do because you want to or because people ask you are good in some way, and you do want to do them, even if they come at a sacrifice of time with regards to your business. Yesterday being a good example of that. It's nice being able to look after your mum, and that was a good thing that I was around yesterday. And it's a good example because whilst I'm not going to delve into my mum's health situation in these videos, it was a call that potentially had some import but also probably didn't, and therefore if I was an employee at the moment, I don't think I would have felt it would have been acceptable to ask for time off to go and take that call with her. I think I would have just reassured her at the start of the day, and then after work gone and seen if everything was okay. Sorry, I've lost my own train of thought. Yeah, I think I'm just saying to have that flexibility in that circumstance was a good thing. But my point is that you do have to manage these things, or you end up losing far too much time. And that's it. Sorry, I think that was a bit of a ramble, but point made, and that's the end of the video. So on with a couple more minor technical tasks, and we'll see how I get on the rest of today. Okay, bye.